Stand by. Right. I just got the little notification that said meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Good morning, my dear friends. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Stu Alan.
Good, Stu Alan. G'day, Stu.
Right.
Morning, Nico.
Yeah, so you guys know each other, right? Stu, Nico, Stu.
Oh yeah, we've got a little bit of history.
Two laps.
So 2 laps together. So for those that are just joining in, you guys have done 2 laps of the globe together on, tell me the boats.
Started off on Movie Star, and we made it most of the way around the world. And then we did make it around the world together on Camper, the last of the Volvo 70s.
Which was your favourite one out of those 2?
By far, the Camper program.
Can I ask why?
It was pretty nice being in the third generation of Volvo 70s and working with a really good team, just getting the best out of the boat right from day one in the program. And the Volvo 70s were and still are the best offshore sailing boats around. So we're pretty lucky to be a part of that one.
Cool. Well, so we've now got started. So we're sort of like, getting the feel of it. Have you got your coffee or your glass of water or whatever you need to get yourself going in the morning?
All sorted.
Yeah.
All sorted. We won't tell anybody, Nico, that you're a little bit late for your watch, but that's okay. We'll just keep that between us.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. So we are live streaming on To Live Sail Die on Doyle Sails and Doyle Sails Lake Macquarie. And we did this the first time with Moose, Mike Sanderson, the other morning. And man, that guy likes to talk. Anyway, but the one thing we should say is that people can ask questions, get involved, and we'll see sort of where we go and how we end up. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
I have to say, I'm a little bit blown away to be sharing a live stream chat with you guys because you're both considered to be legends of the sport. Do you think that word legend gets thrown around a wee bit too much sometimes?
Well, it does if you're talking about me and Stu like that.
Stu, this is a live stream. You need to talk, not just nod and smile.
Yeah, I mean, it's very humbling to be talked about as a legend of the sport. There's certainly been some great people in the sport. In the offshore sailing world, when people talk about legends of offshore sailing, I think of, Sir Peter Blake and Grant Dalton for leading such great campaigns for New Zealand. So to be, talked about as a legend is very humbling.
Well, I think that is the one thing about you guys is that you are both quite humble in the way that you talk about your successes and, where it all started and how you ended up here. But let's just rewind back before you were legends of the yachting world. Where did it all start for you, Stu? I believe you're trying to claim that you started sailing at 18 months old.
I did. I was, back when I was about 18 months old, my dad was helping out my uncle and a mate of theirs building a Hartley designed ferro cement 38-foot cruising boat. And I actually heard most of the story the other day when I spoke to my dad about it. And he said they sort of borrowed, in inverted commas, a abandoned government shed down in Wellington. And they basically got a few guys together and built this boat there. And it came time to do the internal fit out, and they didn't quite have enough materials for the job. So they, inverted commas again, borrowed some of the framing from the shed they were actually in and used that to finish off the inside of the boat. And then, the maiden sail was on Wellington Harbour, and I got dragged along.
So you obviously have fond memories of this as an 18-month-old?
Of course, yeah.
Well, I feel, Nico, I think your experience in starting sailing has a few more wings than the ferro cement. Now, tell us about the first boat that you sailed. And I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people outside of Australia who knows the kind of boat that you first sailed, so you might have to just explain it. Go for it.
Yeah, it's a Pelican. It's like the first sort of junior training boat that you have, a main jib spinnaker, 2-person. and I wasn't into sailing, and the family really wasn't either. My brother had gone sailing on a scout camp at one stage, and then he's decided he'd go and borrow, the local 16-foot sailing club Pelican, because they had a couple there in the club, and of course couldn't get a crew because he was hopeless and just starting off. And my parents forced me into it. I wasn't keen. I was playing football and whatever at the time. I think I was about 5 or 6, I guess, somewhere around then. So I got, kicking and screaming. I went sailing with my brother. But it's cool because, and then we sailed together most of our lives, and then we won. Then we went on and won 3 world championships together. As soon as I could get him off steering, we came good.
How did that discussion go?
No. Well, he was a fair bit taller and a fair bit heavier, so it was kind of like a natural progression.
And so after the Pelican, did you ever sail Manly Juniors?
No, I didn't. Like, it's funny, I live in Lake Macquarie, and it's just 2 hours drive north of Sydney, but there was quite a difference in boats at the time. So I went from a Pelican to a VJ, which is a 2-man boat that you basically, it's almost like hiking, but you're actually just sitting on timber planks.
Yeah. I've sailed VJs. They're quite an experience, really.
Yeah. Like, they're all, they're such cool boats to go. At the time, they were fast and they were really difficult. Maybe not compared to some of the boats nowadays, but we certainly thought they were.
So we've just had a comment come through. Chris Nicholson. Sorry, Stu, we'll come back to you and your youth sailing in a second. Chris Nicholson became a legend for me when he and his brother won the 1992 International 505 Worlds at Santa Cruz Yacht Club. They led every race by half a leg or so.
Yeah, it was pretty. It's funny, you don't think about it so much at the time, but sort of even the last few years, you think more about like how that occurred, and it was kind of like like you're the right age, you're the right focus. Like there wasn't any. I didn't have any single distraction other than literally to go sailing. And
so no cars, no girlfriends, just sailing.
Yeah, well, yeah, no, there was that was you could always kind of, as soon as you leave the bank, you're into it. But
we'll come back to the teenage years. Just because, let's just get Stu to catch up, because obviously Stu grew up in New Zealand. And Stu, tell us about your first sailing experience, like proper sailing, not as an 18-month-old.
Yeah, so I started a little later than Nico. I was probably about 9 years old, and I started sailing at the Parramatta Boating Club just north of Wellington, not the Australian Parramatta. And again, my dad had sailed at that club as a junior and senior, and so they had a great junior sailing program there and a sort of an optimist building scheme. So I got one of the optimists and spent 3 years sailing optimists there in Wellington, and I sort of followed the single-handed development. So I went through opties and then 4 years in the great P class. And so sailing Ps in Wellington was a very challenging time, windy Wellington. So we learned how to sail the Ps in lots of wind. And then from there I went on to sail lasers. So I didn't do a lot of double-handed sailing, but one recollection I do have, probably the first time I raced double-handed was actually with my dad in a boat called a Z class. Again, used to be very popular back in the day, not so much these days, but at the time they used to have a world championship, inverted commas, every year up to coincide with the OptiSail sort of training program in Taupo. After I came out of the Optimist, we still went up there because my younger brothers were also sailing Optis there, and I sailed the Z class with my dad, and he was on the wire and he let me steer. And I remember one time we're going upwind and we sort of shared the tactics a little bit, but on this occasion I was pretty keen to tack, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm not sure we should." I said, "Well, I'm tacking. If you want to come in off the wire, that's up to you."
Hey, so you just talked about an event at Taupo. So we've just had Greg make a little comment here. I remember being at a youth training event at Taupo as a teenager, sailing lasers. Stu was with us, and he's the only person I've seen when one day we had zero breeze to completely flip his laser backwards, just standing on the transom and holding onto the main sheet.
I remember those days. We used to have, we called it an expression session. So you just try and do whatever tricks you could on your laser. And that was one of them. Another one was the old mast climb to see if you could make it to the top before you hit the water. They were good times.
So, Chris, as a teenager, sorry, Nico, people probably don't know you as Chris. As a teenager, what's the sort of craziest thing you did as a up-and-coming sailor as a teenager?
Oh, no, just like our common trick. I was actually sailing lasers and, you know, and skiffs a bit. And our common trick was like, you know, the more traditional southerly busters that would come through. So we'd get on the laser or whatever boat we were sailing at the time and go down to the other end of the lake, knowing that this pretty massive southerly buster would come through. And then you get to go downhill for about, you know, sort of 3 miles across the lake. And I remember like some of the storms we'd go out in with plenty of lightning and thunder and just stuff that you wouldn't dream of doing nowadays for some reason, but it was pretty standard for us to do.
Sounds exciting. I mean, I know Lake Macquarie, and I know a lot of people watching would know Lake Macquarie, and it's a pretty amazing place to sail. So speaking of that, out of all of the places that you guys have sailed, let's still stick to the junior ranks. What was the best club and the best location that you sailed in as a kid?
Ooh. A couple come to mind for me, and it was back when I was sailing lasers as a fairly young fellow. Plympton and New Plymouth, and both for the same reason. They're on the west coast of the North Island, and just get big seas, big waves, big swells, you know, pumping northwesterly breezes, and just absolutely great fun sailing in the big waves. Basically, sort of ocean-sized waves for the dinghy. Just doing, you know, short course dinghy racing and big swells. It was really, really cool fun.
Nice. Nico?
I had to go back through the memory bank there, and one place that I really remember was Hervey Bay up in Queensland.
That's a good spot.
And it was quite windy and rough at the time. I was on VJs and I was forward handing for my brother, but it was then like there was such big waves that you had to put the rudder and centerboard in the boat as you left the bank, and you'd get about 10 people and the boat was carried out above your head. My problem was I was so small I couldn't get out through the waves, so they ended up having they brought the boat back in, threw me on top of the boat, and then they all carried the boat in, and then launch, and out we go through surf conditions. All great stuff. Everyone would call it off nowadays if you did that to kids.
Oh, I know. Like I remember back growing up in Australia, and the two places that I remember as being epic places to sail out of was Coffs Harbour, going out through the heads there, and Mooloolaba, crossing the bar when the waves are actually breaking across the bar, and you had to time it so you didn't actually end up on the beach with your boat in pieces.
Yeah, more surfing than sailing.
Yeah, absolutely. So then we're sort of still sticking with this whole, you know, youth theme that we've got here at the moment. So who in the sailing world, Stu, we'll start with you. Who was your childhood hero?
Because I came up through the single-handed sailing, and it's something I really enjoyed. My hero, I guess, someone I aspired to be like one day, was Paul Elvstrom. You know, he, for me, was just the epitome of a legend, a great sailor in the single-handed sailing. You know, 4 Olympic gold medals, and for me, that's sort of where I wanted to go when I was, you know, 8, 9, 10 years old. That was where I was aiming.
Good work on the Olympic path. Well done. Oh no, wait, that was Nico. Nico, who was your childhood hero?
Well, it wasn't wasn't a sailor. Can I go non-sailing?
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. I remember seeing a documentary pretty early on, and it was a Canadian cancer survivor at the time, Terry Fox, and he decided to walk across the states, and he lost his leg to cancer, and it was just this amazing story of a guy that just didn't give up, and the cancer got him in the end. He never made it across the states, but and it really stuck with me throughout all the years.
That's quite moving.
Yeah, but it's not the fluffy ending that everyone likes to see, but it's real.
Yeah. So, Stu, how come you sort of never pursued that Olympic side, and ended up being an offshore sailor?
Kind of a series of circumstances, I guess. I carried on my single-handed sailing right through till competitively up to the age of 18, 19. In fact, my first trip ever out of New Zealand was to the Youth World Championship in Canada. And that was during my first year of university while I was in Wellington. And then after that, I moved to Auckland to go and study mechanical engineering in Auckland. And while I was there, it was far easier and far more affordable, which was the most important thing for me at the time, to go keelboat sailing. So I ended up sailing 3, 4, 5 times a week on various keelboats out of Auckland. The MRX fleet had just been launched then, and we had a great bunch of sort of young guys my sort of age, and we were sailing, as I say, we were racing seriously 3 or 4 times a week in those boats. And then I got into match racing, started to do a few sort of longer races with some guys in Auckland at the time. In fact, my first offshore race, if you like, was the Coastal Classic with Brian Trubovich on Pork Chop.
That's awesome.
And, straight after I graduated, I was 2 days after I graduated, I was on a plane to the UK to do my OE, and I went there to do the match racing regatta. At the time, I was doing the World Match Racing Circuit with Roy Heiner, and I based myself in the UK, travelled, did a few regattas, and then got an opportunity to join very late the New Zealand Endeavour team for the Whitbread. And from there, I just, I loved that, and just kept doing that. I managed to slip in a short Olympic campaign in between a couple of Whitbread races.
Well, speaking of Olympic campaigns, Nico, you've had quite a few.
Yeah.
Do you miss those 49er days?
I went and did some coaching just at last Christmas with the Australian team, and yeah, when you kind of diverge so abruptly, kind of ocean racing to Olympics, it's kind of the different end of the sport. But then when you come back and see it, you go, wow, I'd like to be able to still do that. So you do miss it. But I don't miss the repetition as such. Back then I was totally into the repetition of, whatever, 10,000 tacks, 10,000 jibes, and really, the real fine detail. I don't miss that. I kind of, the offshore part of it is so many variables that you're trying to whittle down and get better at, and you can't kind of quite often get to that level of detail. So it's quite different, but I certainly love the challenge at the moment of offshore programs.
So if you had to choose, say you're 20 years old and you got given the 2 options right in front of you, right? Now, we know that you went for Olympics, but if you had those 2 options right in front of you, which one would have you actually chosen at the time, do you think?
Going back on having had the experience of both, I would choose the offshore.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, and I never saw that coming. My friends had just suggested, you know, go to look at a Volvo Ocean Race in between Olympics as a break, and I did that, the first one with Daltz on Armour Sports, and I so enjoyed, you know, also the bigger team environment as well. And I found it extremely difficult. You know, I'd never sailed a boat with a steering wheel before stepping on that boat.
Far out.
It was the same for me. I'd never raced a boat with a wheel at night until I stepped on New Zealand Endeavour for the Fastnet race.
Seriously?
Seriously.
That just seems so absurd now.
It does. You know, the pathways now for young people to get into sailing, there's no way you'd get a chance on a boat like that if you'd never done an offshore race on a boat with a wheel, for example. But you know, we're a young team. You know, talking to Moose the other day, you know, he said he was 21 when he started that program, and I'm a little bit older than Moose by 3 or 4 weeks. But we were 22 years old when that race started, and I think it's rare to be able to get that sort of opportunity at such a young age. I was going to ask Nico a question, actually.
Go for it.
Nico, you've got a bit of a reputation of being seasick, haven't you? How have you managed that over the years?
not very well.
going offshore is not really a natural choice for someone that gets really crook.
Yeah. Like, it's fun. Like, I loved the first race a lot, but I almost stopped actually during the first 2 Volvos I did, because I'd get so seasick and I couldn't manage it very well. And it was only really through trial and error and finding the right medication that helps, you know, and eating the right food and not being downstairs too much. So I still have to manage it a lot. But yeah, I've been sick in every place around the world.
Sorry. I just never expected that. That's hilarious. Stu, thank you so much for sharing that.
No, it's not actually that funny.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are wondering, what is that secret combination of drugs?
Yeah, well, it's an over-the-counter one, and it's just like it's a slow release. So the common drug, I think, that demihydrinate is it's just a slow release one. It just happens just to work for me, and it actually has saved a few. Do you remember Hamish Hooper, our OBR? He was projectile vomiting all around New Zealand, and finally got him on him, and he's a convert. So yeah, it's helped. It's actually helped a lot of people.
He was smart though, and only did the one offshore race around the world. Yeah,
he's smart.
So do you want to just say that name again so everyone can hear it, what they need to be going and asking the pharmacist for?
Oh, it's Gravol, Gravol is the one I use.
There you go.
And I'm not sponsored by
I was just about to say, proudly endorsed. So,
I wish I was.
So Stu, are you saying that you've never been seasick?
No, I have been a few times, but I can count the number of times I've been seasick on one hand. And one of them was when I was sailing with Nico. Actually,
I saw it.
Do you think that by one vomiting, the other one just follows out of sympathy?
Oh, there's definitely a bit of that goes on for sure. We were doing a TP52 race, the Southport race, I think it was, and for some reason the fastest way to get up to Southport for that race was to go offshore and go upwind in 40 knots. We sort of went some of the way because we wanted to get there and not blow the rig out of the boat. But again, as Nico said, just managing the time down below, I didn't do a good job of that and got downstairs for a bit too long looking at the computer screen and had to rush on deck up to the back of the boat. It's a bit crook, but you know, I've been fortunate. Once I am sick, I can just get straight back into it. It's not something that hangs around for a while.
But also, if you see the volume of food that Stu can eat in one sitting, you can perhaps understand why he might get a little crook occasionally.
So speaking of projectile vomiting and the glamorous side of what we do when we go offshore, what's your favorite freeze dry that you go for? You know, do you have a like? Is it the chicken curry? Is it the lamb?
I know Nico's will just be plain pasta with no sauce. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I've grown up a bit, and I can do spaghetti carbonara now. It's my favourite.
Stu, what about you? Do you like, have a full steak or something? Do you?
I wish they do freeze dried steak. No, the good New Zealand company, Backcountry, produce a Mexican chicken, which is really quite nice and spicy, and you throw in a few corn chips with it. I don't know how long they've had that one around, but a long time, probably 20 years that one's been around, but I'd still rank it up there with my favourite.
I think it's a Kiwi thing, because on camper with Stu, Salty and Trey, like, they're 3 human garbage cans. You can literally pour anything into them and they just keep eating. Like, really, like, hard work to watch them eat.
This is not where I expected this conversation to go. But it's all part of it, though. It's all part of it. Because I know that there's a lot of people out there who really want to go offshore sailing, but they do get scared because of the whole seasickness thing. And sometimes you can be made to feel pretty silly about it. I mean, I remember once I did one of my very first offshore races, and my gosh, I'm surprised I have any insides left after that. I mean, it's something that you've worked on over time, and you've taken some medication for to help it. But do you think it's a bit of a mindset as well? I mean, how do you overcome it?
Honestly, a lot of people used to tell me, it was all in my mind. But I also can remember going sailing and hadn't even thought about being seasick, and all of a sudden, you start to feel a bit anxious, but the sea will calm, but then you find there's an underlying slow swell and you get seasick, and you just go, well, I know now, I hadn't even considered it at the time. But I kind of see on most boats nowadays, like, it's quite a not tolerance, but people quite often they don't comment if you're sick. You just kind of they keep talking to you normally. You might be sick. It's really treated like it's treated like you don't want to catch that problem yourself as well. You just kind of hope it can go away. But a lot of it, you do get nervous, and I really didn't like to kind of not be able to do my job properly and let people down, and that was probably the most worrying part of it.
It's just letting people down. Yeah, that's fair call. So, I mean, we're both, all of us are sort of stuck on shore at the moment in New Zealand. We're in like a full lockdown. You can't leave the house unless you need to go to the grocery store or go to the pharmacy for a short walk around the block. I know that I'm itching to get back out on the water. But guys, between the two of you, what's the one thing that you miss the most right now about not being able to go sailing?
The income. I mean, it's a real That's the truth. It's the truth with our industry, and fingers crossed that we come out of it and the racing scene gets back going again. I mean, we love racing, but at the end of the day, it is our livelihood. So that's a pretty serious part of it.
Yeah, I fully understand and agree with that. Live Sail Die is a business that runs on events, and events happening. No events, get to talk to you guys instead. But what's one thing that you miss, Nico?
I miss that that our sport isn't yet like really in the big time as such. It's not one of the massive sports in the world, but yet there's a few things that are going on in terms of great races and great boats, and we still need to get there as a sport. And I miss the fact that if it's really hurting us at the moment. There's a lot of momentum with America's Cup, Sail GP, the Mockers, Ocean Race. There's a lot of momentum, and it really hurts us, I think, more than almost any sport, because we're one of the first ones to stop, and we need to get back out there.
So looking back at all of the races that you've done, this time gives you a chance to reflect. What's been the most favourite race that you've ever competed in?
Oh, it's the round the world. It's the Volvo Ocean Race for sure. It quite often not enjoyable, a lot of it, a good portion of it, but the overall experience, what it does for you in your, with your life, your family, it's so much bigger than a start gun and a finishing line, and to do those things, it is an extreme part of the sport, and you need to be with the best of people to do it in the fashion you need to, and it's so rewarding.
How about you, Stu?
For sure, the Volvo Ocean Race. It's the complete test of a sailor, I think, and a sailing team, and it really is the epitome of a complete team sport. Right from the sailing team through the design team and shore team, even you include the families as part of that. If all of that functions well together, and you do a good job, and you can come out of it with a good chance of doing well. And the feeling of satisfaction after finishing off a 12, 18 months, 2 years campaign and having done a good job, the feeling of satisfaction is pretty nice.
Okay, so the Volvo Ocean Race is a clear winner, but let's just pretend that it's not an option. So in your country, Stu, in New Zealand, what is your most favourite race in New Zealand?
Coastal Classic. As I say, it's the first time I ever raced a boat at night, not counting a 24-hour race actually on Lake Pupuki.
Yeah.
But the Coastal Classic was, as I say, I guess I really got a taste for the offshore sailing, nighttime sailing by doing that Coastal Classic. And I'd done 2 or 3 Coastal Classics before I went off and did the Round the World race. But it's a great place to start.
Nico, favourite race in Australia?
Well, it's almost the Coastal Classic. I've only done one, and it's an awesome race, and it's kind of like a short Sydney to Hobart, and you finish at a good pub and have a good time with your mates. But in Australia, it'd be the Hobart. It never used to be. It's a fantastic tactical race, and it's kind of like it's a pretty short race duration, and only drawback for me is it's the time of year. I'd rather be with the family at that time of year on Boxing Day, but it's also one of the best things for the race. So that would be it, tactical, and you see plenty along the way.
Well, I mean, they're the two most popular races in each of our countries, that's for sure. Hey, Stu, I had a photo sent in to me. Now, you're known to be someone who hangs out at the back of the boat. Can you just explain to me why you've been seen? Let me see if we can get this here, right at the front of a boat. Now, we'll show everybody that properly, because apparently it is a very, very rare sighting, and it's like someone spotting a kiwi. Can you see that there? On the bow? Look at that.
Yeah, one thing that's really obvious from that picture, a couple of things actually. One is no wind, and the other is how uncomfortable that I look up there. Going outside the lifelines out onto the bowsprit that day was a very, very scary experience for me. I can believe me.
So you didn't feel comfortable up there, that's for sure?
Not at all. I'll never feel comfortable going that far forward in any boat.
So now that was Miss Scarlett, the IRC 52, about 2 months ago, before they set off on the Round North Island race, the Short-Handed Sailing Association of New Zealand Round North Island race. That's another fantastic event here that is in New Zealand. Now, guys, if we were to get you a boat, do you reckon the two of you could do that race together?
100%.
Easy.
So who would be in charge?
No one.
Yeah.
What could possibly go wrong?
We'd just wing it. No, I'd love to do a two-handed race anywhere with Nico. I'm not sure if he feels the same way, but I'm sure we'd figure it out.
No, absolutely. But that would be the thing. There wouldn't be anyone in charge, like you kind of think, when you have respect for people like we do, you reach, and, you're very analytical in how you look at it. You reach the right conclusions. We've sailed around the world twice together, and there's never been I don't think there's ever been an issue where, a tactical or any situation where we didn't come to a combined decision.
Well, they actually call them co-skippers now, not skipper and crew, because it's both people are actually leading the charge, because most of the time you're actually, you don't really see each other. So it is almost like single-handing, but with someone down having a nap and someone helping you with a sail change every now and then.
Yeah.
All right, I reckon we need to tee that up. The next race is in a couple of years' time, so I reckon we need to get you guys on to the start line for that one. Right, now, we know that your career highlights are obviously competing in the Volvo Ocean Race, but Stu, you've won 4. Are you going to go on and try and win a 5th?
I'll never say never. I would love to do it again with the right team, the right boats, the right environment. I think I'm still young enough and I'm looking after myself physically and mentally well enough to have another crack at it. I'd love to in the right environment, but obviously I've done a few now, so I can afford to say no if I don't think it's the right thing to do. But yeah, I'd love to.
Are you putting the feelers out now? I mean, either of you sort of putting the feelers out for another campaign?
No, well, up until a few weeks ago, I was keeping pretty busy working with Doyle Sails, clients, and doing a lot of work with new projects and so on. So I was keeping busy, and that was keeping me challenged. But it's always in the back of my mind. I've always been talking to people. I think I've got a finger on the pulse as to what's going on with teams for the next race. And, if the right arrangement came along, I'd certainly consider it. Absolutely.
Nico?
Yeah, well, really busy with the loft here at Doyle Sails Lake Macquarie in between full time. But yeah, we're trying to raise money to do another race in the ocean race. Like Stu and I are similar age, and I was surprised though that you said Moose was same age. Stu, he looks a whole lot older than us. Must have done quite a few miles offshore, I think, Moose. But yeah, we're trying hard to do that. Obviously, with all the economic health troubles in the world at the moment, everything is on hold. Hopefully the world can get through it, and then we'll look at it when the time comes. I'd love to do it, but quite often there's a lot of things out of your control in the early days of trying to get a team together.
Nico, you recently had an article in Yachting Life, which I had a read of, and there was a paragraph in here that has actually stuck with me, and I saved it and highlighted it. And I just want to read it back to you to see if you remember it. If you continually drag your ass, then you will eventually wear everyone else down. If you are always trying hard to do well, then you will thrive. And equally, your positive attitude will rub off on those around you. I have to say, I was quite moved by that.
Yeah, I do remember it. I only wrote it last week, so
yeah. I mean, that was that's actually stuck with me, and I've saved that. And I think in this current time, we need to, always be there and look out for each other and always lift each other up. Well, I mean, I've taken that on as some really great advice, so thank you very much for that. But what's the best advice that you guys have ever been given?
I don't know if I'd call it advice, and I don't remember where I got it from, but it ended up becoming a bit of sort of catchphrase for us on the Dong Fong Volvo program, and that was that it's never over till it's over. And that certainly proved to be the case at the end of that Volvo race. But it
certainly did.
You know, I guess it's a motivating line that we used a lot, and you know, I've used it a lot over the years, and it's particularly relevant to yacht racing because it truly is never over till it's over. You know, there's always an opportunity. Weird stuff happens. You know, a number of times that boats have grabbed defeat from the jaws of victory is pretty amazing. So it's a big one for offshore sailing, especially.
Yeah, Nico, what about you?
I remember I was in Kiel sailing a Tornado, and it was Mike Fletcher, like probably one of the most legendary coaches in the world. He was coaching us, and it was one of the few times that, you know, we're pre-start and I really didn't have a good handle on which way to go up the first beat. I'm just looking at it and I said, "Oh, Fletch, what do you reckon? You know, left or right?" And he come back and he goes, "Well, Nico, if it doesn't pay to go left, go right." And it's just like, and I just remember it's just like, "Yep, thanks, Fletch," because obviously he had no idea as well. But it's, you know, it's I guess it's, you know, that's one of the great parts of it. You know, sometimes you don't know the actual right answer. You have to go with gut feel. And that's when, you know, it brings into, you know, it's not over till it's over. You have to hang in there.
Look at that. Good, great advice all around. So let's, forgetting the Volvo boats for a moment and forgetting the around the world stuff, out of all of the yachts you've ever sailed on, excluding those ones, what's been your favorite? Stu, start with you.
I want to say the TP52s, and not one particular boat. I've sailed on a bunch of them over the last 15 years. And for me, inshore racing and coastal and even offshore racing, I've done a couple of transpacks on the 52s. They are just the perfect size boat that's got a really dinghy-like feel to it. You can throw them around. The sails are small enough to drag around by yourself, but it's just big enough to be pretty comfortable offshore. So it's been pretty cool seeing the way that class of boat, that size of boats developed over the last, you know, 15, 18 years. So yeah, I'd go the 52s.
Nice. That's a good choice, I reckon. What about you, Nico?
Do I have to go yachts? Is that the story?
Well, we're kind of on a yacht theme, but no.
Right.
But no.
I'll go yachts.
Okay, you get two choices. You get dinghy and a yacht.
Okay. All right. I'll stick with the yacht first, and it was one of the Ramblers. It was the 90-footer, the original fixed keel. It was the Shockwave, wasn't it, Stu, before that?
Yes. Yeah.
That boat was, I did a couple of transatlantics on it, and it was just a really well sorted out, well prepared, well balanced, behaved itself nice. We got kind of stuck in 45, 50 knots halfway across, and it was just, you know, it was the boat that you wanted to be on in conditions like that.
Again, not a bad choice. And then your dinghy?
Oh, that was a 505, like in terms of understanding all the things that go into what makes a boat go fast. They're quite complicated boats. And it's an area that quite often, you know, I think young sailors nowadays miss because they either go down a one design path or go down to, you know, pretty refined boats. There's not enough, you know, development and them learning and understanding what makes these things tick.
I've sailed 505s, and I would have to say I agree with you. I could never master them. There was too many ropes and too much technical stuff going on for me. Hey, now you mentioned earlier, Stu, that you went to uni and you became a mechanical engineer. And Nico, did you go down that uni path or?
No, I wasn't that smart. I was an electrician in the coal mines.
There you go. It's an electrician. So if you guys weren't pro sailors, do you think that that's what you'd be doing with your life? You'd be a mechanical engineer somewhere and you'd be in a mine somewhere fixing lights?
I think so. I chose mechanical engineering as a career path with a view to be working in the marine industry. So I had, prospective employer was going to be Fire Yacht Design. At that time, they were the leading yacht designers, and they had an internal engineering department. There was going to be something like that, or High Modulus, which has now become SP. So composite engineering in the marine industry was where I wanted to go.
So
you kind of had a clear path, yet, Nico, really?
No, I stumbled along a bit. I chose electrician and then started to do my engineering in the coal mines because it paid by far the most money, because I needed something like that to fund buying 505s and going over to Europe racing each year. So that was kind of, it was a purely a mercenary reason why I started the electrician in the coal mines. I enjoyed the job a lot, I really did, but that was kind of a means to an end. I didn't know if I'd ever, that wasn't a goal to become a professional sailor. My goal was to do as good as I could in the 505 class. So it was kind of there wasn't a real long-term view on it at that stage.
So we've definitely learned some stuff about you today. So working in a coal mine and you get seasick. So, I mean, Stu bailed on one of your secrets there about the whole seasickness thing. What is something that you can tell us about the famous Stu Bannatyne that we wouldn't know about?
Well, like as everyone knows, goes offshore, some of the best stories are kind of around the head or the toilet area. And Stu actually is a legend in this area. When you said legend earlier, you used the word, it's flattering, but he is a legend on the head. Stu, you need to kind of come clean now.
Yeah, on the spot, isn't it? I have a very, very efficient body in the way that I process the mountains of food that I eat. So let's just say I'm so efficient eating the freeze-dried food offshore that I only need to visit the head about once every 1,000 miles.
Oh, yeah, maybe more.
On average.
Yeah.
Again, I didn't expect it to go down that path. We actually did when I was over in Sydney before the Sydney Hobart race. Do you remember, Stu, when I was down on Comanche and Moose gave us a bit of a walkthrough on downstairs in Comanche? The section of him actually playing with the head and showing everybody the head was the one part that everybody was fascinated about. What is it about that area of a boat that just is so fascinating? Please tell me, enlighten me.
It's one area where you really, if there's one part of a boat that needs to work, that's it. When you're doing a Sydney Hobart, well, not for me doing the Sydney Hobart, I never had to worry, but
is it that because it's only 600 miles?
Exactly. But if you're offshore somewhere and you're going upwind or downwind in big seas or wherever it might be, you need to use the head. You need to make sure it works properly. It's one of the things with the Volvo 65s, they didn't get quite right. There's just not quite enough room in there. You end up bracing yourself in all sorts of precarious positions.
Oh my God, thank goodness we've got the saying, what happens on tour stays on tour. We'll just leave that one right there. Guys, where do you see yourselves in 10 years' time?
Go, Nico.
10 years. Oh God, I'll be 40.
Oh, sorry. I wasn't meant to laugh then.
No, I'd say in 10 years' time, I hope I'm doing some cruising in French Polynesia with the family would be the aim there, like for sure. Well, fortunate enough, we sailed out from Europe a few years ago with my wife and kids, and like round two cruising would be my aim.
Nice. Stu?
I'm a little younger than Nico, so I might still be working in 10 years' time. I would love to be doing essentially what I'm doing now, which is working for Doyle Sails. Absolutely love working for that company. It's been a really, I've been there 4 years now, and it's sort of another dimension to being a professional sailor, being involved a bit more on the ground floor with projects, working with clients, developing the sails and rigs and so on. That's what I love about the sport. So to be able to do that on a daily basis is pretty cool, and to just keep racing, a nice mixture as I do now of inshore racing, coastal, the occasional offshore race. And if I can still be doing that in 10 years, I'll be very happy.
Good stuff. Well, you've both got Wikipedia pages. First of all, did you know that you had a Wikipedia page?
Someone mentioned it to me once.
So you didn't set it up yourself then, guys?
No, my brother got himself one before I did. So.
That's because he played for the All Whites.
He did indeed.
There you go.
The World Cup.
And on these said Wikipedia pages, Stu, it says you were born in 1971, and Nico, you were born in 1969. So yes, the age difference between you guys is huge.
Yeah.
Big enough.
So obviously those Wikipedia pages have got a good solid bit of information on them. Stu, you don't have a photo on yours yet though, so maybe we go in there and edit that and add a photo of you, potentially the one of you on the bow of Miss Scarlett.
There you go.
Hey guys, I've had a great time getting to know the both of you a lot better over this last hour. Is there anything you'd like to sort of say to wrap up? Any advice that you can give to the next generation out there who want to get involved in the Volvo Ocean Race? Now's your chance. Go for it.
I would say, just work hard, and if you want a role model, no one better than Chris Nicholson.
Oh, crikey.
Your turn, Nico. What advice?
I'd say, like, it kind of goes to what one of the previous comments Stu said in regards to Doyle's and working with great people and the right culture, and it's so important. It reflects Doyle's, it reflects the good Volvo and Ocean Race teams, and you have to make sure you can fit that culture, be a good person, be hardworking, and those kind of, if you have those attributes, people see that. And sometimes the skill you can work around the different skill set just by discipline, but be a good person, work hard.
It's pretty good advice. And just before we wrap up, we've got these really cool little background images going on. Stu, you've got Comanche there, and Nico, InfoTrack. Obviously, those two boats have got a special place with you guys as well.
Indeed, it was pretty cool racing with the team on Comanche for the last Sydney Hobart race. It's actually my only experience sailing with the boat, so it was a short sort of build-up period, and we were very lucky. The conditions for the race enabled the boat to just get up and go. It was a very, very cool experience and a very cool boat to thrash around the Sydney Hobart course.
Nico? Yeah,
InfoTrack. That's the previous Hobart I did with Stu on board, and then this last Hobart we had an awesome race. It's like a project that seems like we're kind of boxing in the category above where we should be most of the time, but when you look at the guys on board and how it's organised, it's a really well run boat, and hopefully we'll take it to them again this year.
We'll see what happens. It could be the first race that we all get to do back. Could be.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. Hey guys, I just want to say thank you so much. We've had loads of people watching and tuning in to learn about Nico, your seasickness, and Stu, your exceptional head gymnastics that you do. And guys, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having a chat with you. Thank you so much for making the time to chat. And yeah, that's pretty much it for us. What do you reckon?
Nice one.
Yeah, good. It's been a good chat. Thanks.
That's been a good chat. All right, guys. Well, I'm not sure who's going to be up next on our Doyle Sails live chat, but no doubt we'll be able to advertise that soon. And yeah, I just want to say thank you again so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you out in the water.
Cool. See you, Sue.
Cheers.
Cool. See you guys.
Bye.